Hello and welcome to the ChinnyVision podcast, a very occasional look at the world of retro gaming. And this time I'm joined by, an expert on TISWAS, the Sinclair Spectrum, and many other things. It's Pete Prodge from Reheated Pixels.
Hi there, Chinny.
Tell us a little bit about yourself first of all, because you've got this kind of Spectrum TISWAS type thing, so we should really explain who you are.
Yeah, I am stand-up comedian Pete Prodge. I have a bit of a TISWAS obsession. I was quite instrumental in the TISWAS Online reunion show that happened back in 2006, and also ended up interviewing so many TISWAS stars and making something that became a documentary, a tribute to the television studios in Birmingham for ATV/Central Television called From ATV Land in Colour with three other friends from a web forum. So television is one side of my obsession with technology. Computing, obviously, is the other. And I have a retro gaming platform called Reheated Pixels. That's a sort of brand where I put out videos on YouTube, but some YouTubers put a video out each week or each month. I put one out every Ice Age.
And before we begin, I will highly recommend the From ATV Land in Colour DVD. I own a copy. I recently rewatched it, and it's really good, especially if you want tales about TISWAS and Crossroads. Because Jane Rossington's on there as well from Crossroads. Lots of people, and really funny stories from Jim Bowen about Bullseye as well. But and Peter Harris from. I'm going on anyway. So, Pete, what was your first computer? What, in fact, how did you get a computer? What was life like before you had a computer?
Well, my parents were permanently out of work, quite deliberately so. My father was in an industrial accident and paid the mortgage off and never really wanted to work. He's an anti-role model, let's put it that way. Just lived off unemployment benefit for most of his life. He got jobs here and there, but always be quickly out of them. So we were a very skint family. You could put on the Hovis music on in the background. We were like living with bare floorboards for most of the 70s and early 80s. For me, television was my babysitter. I grew up with TISWAS, How, Words of Gummidge, all these brilliant shows. And at some point on children's ITV, when computing started coming in, do you remember Video and Chips from HTV?
Very vaguely.
Yeah, just little things. It would start intruding into kids' TV, more than just the usual Space Invaders references. Things you could do on the BBC Micro and the Dragon 32 and the ZX Spectrum. This is way before Bad Influence and Games Master. Very primitive, but I was absolutely obsessed with computer games. And just anytime I got near an arcade, as I say, I'm very obsessed with television. And with a computer and arcade, you're moving things about on the screen and you are in control.
That's it. The first time you see a computer, the first time I played, I saw my mate's Amstrad CPC Harrier Attack, and it's like you can control this thing on the screen. And my memory says that was photorealistic graphics, but of course it's not. It's Harrier Attack. And presumably, you were seeing these things and it was you're going, how can I get one of these?
Absolutely. Our family had pretty much no money at all, really, and I thought it's just a far-off dream. But watching children's television at that time, you remember Tony Hart with Take Heart, and then there's a follow-up series called Heartbeat, and he showed us, it's a bit like Blue Peter, how you could make your own computer from a piece of cardboard. I just looked at that, got some vague idea from it, and went round to my friend's house where his parents, very middle-class arty parents, had a lot of cardboard and things like that around and sellotape. What I described on the television from a very shaky memory and saying, this is how you make a computer. We'll play Space Invaders together and you just control the aliens and I'll try and zap them, which was absolutely pathetic. I think I was about 7 years old and he was 5.
And were you seeing before this era when you didn't have a computer, were there friends at school with perhaps handheld games, or because I guess you are a little bit older than what my memory is of that era. So when I was at school, it was Spectrums, Amstrads, Commodore 64s and so on, and handheld games. You're perhaps from where you're speaking about TISWAS a little bit before then. So is this technology starting to come in and be seen at school?
Our junior school got a BBC Micro in about 1983 or 1984 and made a big thing about it. It's a very working class area. Hardly anybody really owned an actual computer. And then around about 1985, more and more kids at school were starting to get Spectrums and Commodore 64s were in there a little bit. Our school they had something in the local paper about getting this BBC Micro, and even invited the rival junior school from a mile up the road to come down, and there's a queue of every single kid from that school just to have a look at a BBC Micro. You would not have that these days. Oh, I've got a computer. Yeah, so what? Who cares? But yeah, I was absolutely obsessed with it, and when I got to go on one of the kids made the program stop, and because I've been watching about all these children's TV shows about computing, and I thought, I'll just type run. I've heard that's a thing you do in BASIC. And bang, it worked. And everyone thought I was a genius. I got this reputation as being a computer whiz kid, which is a phrase you never hear these days. But yeah, but most Saturday mornings would be spent going into Boots or into Dixon's and just doing the usual cheesy 10 print, Dixon's is rubbish, 20 go to 10, and just annoying the shop assistants in there.
Are you going to friends' houses and seeing these machines, or is it literally there's in your area? And whereabouts is this, by the way, in the country?
I'm in Wellingborough in Northamptonshire. We gave the world Dr. Martens. Around friends' houses, they didn't really have computers until about 96, when a new kid joined called Daniel Harris. He was an absolute Sinclair nut. He not only had a Spectrum and the printer, he even had the portable Sinclair television. And yeah. And he brought me over to his house, and he was, we're going to play some games. And he mostly took control. And he was, I think, looking back on it with hindsight, he was just pleased to have somebody to show this off to, because he was kind of like me, just obsessed with tech and didn't have many friends. So showing it off to somebody, but he was very much in control. And he also wanted to show the serious side. He was loading up VU 3D, and all I wanted to do is keep on playing Chucky Egg. That was my first time directly playing on a home computer rather than in a school or a controlled environment, or just catching some coins off my dad for the arcade machine in the chippy. That's it, really. And I think also in 1986, going on holiday to Wales, when we were stuck on a caravan park for 2 weeks at Clarick Bay near Aberystwyth, and the main holiday park just had this massive arcade full of all the stuff from the cream of the mid-80s. I think there's Outrun in there, but there's Pac-Land, Wonder Boy, Kung Fu Master. And I'd be sticking coins in them to as much as I could.
And that's kind of the holiday experience of being able to, or the pub experience, or the British Legion experience in my case, from my grandfather. Those machines that are there, and which machines are you kind of gravitating towards?
It was 50-50 Pac-Land, Wonder Boy.
I do remember Pac-Land being in the sports centre, and we would do swimming on a Friday, and you'd get out the change room and you have to wait in the area with all the arcade machines and all the vending machines, and you just kind of longingly look over to the Pac-Land machine going through its attract mode, thinking, oh, that looks terribly exciting. And then you saw what the home version was like on the Amstrad, and you kind of went, not the same, really, is it?
Utter travesty.
So you're playing those machines. Now, obviously, a computer's come into your life at some point. So when was that? And I assume it was a Spectrum.
Yeah, I'm always late to the party with technology, but in a way, that's always a good thing. Don't be an early adopter. So it was 1987, and by that time, I totally forgot about what the ZX Spectrum actually was. To me, a computer was a computer. I didn't have all that sort of format allegiance. So my parents discussed with me in the summer that, yeah, you can have a computer, and my dad would put up half the money from somewhere, and my mum would put up half the money. She sold her engagement ring. Bless her. So, yes, a really big step to fund this computer. She could see I was absolutely mad about computers, and she could see it's the future. Although neither of my parents got any interest in computers. They just see technology as oh God, have we got to deal with that? Got a ZX Spectrum 128K plus 2.
Which pack did you get?
I got the best. I got the absolute best, because it had from Imagine, Konami's Con-Up hits with Green Beret, Yaya Kung Fu, Hypersports, Mickey, Ping Pong. Fantastic. And Screen Heroes for Motion. So you got Street Hawk, Highlander, even more there. But then you got Daley Thompson Super Test, Rambo's on there, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Knight Rider, that's not so great, and Miami Vice, not so great. But at the time, they threw in a Nintendo double cassette with Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers, which that's not too bad, and some absolute rubbish from Tynesoft, like with Harry S. Price's rip-off games. But my friend at school, because by this time I've moved to big school, and he used to own a Spectrum 48K, long blown up, and well, I had invited him round to my house to play on the ZX Spectrum 1 to 8K, and he goes, "Oh, right." He brings me all these old games, and I'm getting to enjoy the vintage, the Jet Set Willy area, and the Ultimate games that I missed out on. So that was nice. He got a Spectrum Plus 2 a few months later, and by that time, the pack-in games were that sort of 90 games on about 10 cassettes, and they were mostly landfill rubbish, but still enjoyed playing them as well.
I'm guessing this is probably a Dixon's bundle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing they'd do. They'd do a really good deal. here's a million games. They're all terrible.
My birthday's on the Friday. I remember it quite well. Yeah, Friday in October. And straight away then, Saturday morning, as soon as the shopping centre opens, I'm going down with my £2 pocket money, just getting Curse of Sherwood by Mastertronic, because I've been looking at this stuff longingly as the months went on to getting a computer, and I knew all I could afford was the £2 Codemasters and Mastertronic budget games. I came back down a few hours later and just having begged for another £2 and got BMX Simulator from Codemasters. The whole weekend till 2 a.m, I was playing games completely square-eyed. What
was this software shop you were going to? Describe it for me.
We had Boots and Woolworths and what else? A little mad gift shop in a street with it sold all kinds of mad dragon knickknacks, and it had lots of obscure budget games. This budget games only rack, a lot of Zeppelin stuff in there which you'd never see anywhere else. But mainly it would be from Boots. I avoided WH Smith because everything's overpriced in there, and Woolworths.
These small shops that stock budget games, I've never really worked out the precise way it worked. I'm guessing it was somebody who had a franchise or something, or a business in an area, who went round in a van, turned up, said, "We give you this rack of games, you can sell it, sale or return, and you get this kind of profit on it, and I will come back every couple of months and restock you." That must be the way it worked, but I never, despite going to all these shops and seeing how it worked, because you go to the newsagent 1 week, there'll be no games in there, and then you go back a few days later, it's fully stocked again. There must have been someone going round selling this stuff to small shops.
Apparently, Mastertronic did exactly that, as you describe. Yeah, there's a small mini supermarket on a council estate near me, and they were having a Mastertronic rack there well into 1995 with all these unsold copies of SOS for the Commodore 64.
Last place to stop budget games for me was my local toy shop, and it was slim pickings by the end. All the kind of dregs were coming out, sub-labels of alternative like Summit and Zeppelin and Colt.
Winner.
Yeah, and all this stuff that didn't play us, all this stuff you never saw back in the day, and then suddenly all of it's coming out, or seeing the Software Plus and Aldershot with a load of, I think it was $4.99 or $5.99, must be $4.99, copies of Street Fighter 2 on budget for the Spectrum, which are now worth a fortune.
Yeah,
I should have bought 10 of them. I'd be rich beyond avarice, but no, I'm thinking it's 1993. Your Sinclair's just closed. This game's only been out for 4 months. It's already on budget. Why? And it's a C60. Why would I want it? So, yeah.
I was kind of lucky in 1987, the cover tapes just started coming in. So for somebody who's quite skint, getting Moly Christmas and Batty, that was heaven, really. They did very sporadic at first, and then by about the end of 88, you got Sinclair user sticking out something regular. I mean, the magazine was terrible, but Your Sinclair really ramping it up. And it was a great time to be a gamer when you've got very little money, because you're getting all these great games and playable demos. And it doesn't matter if it's rubbish or not, because there's something else on side B, etc. I end up playing Chaos, the greatest game ever on any platform, thanks to that.
Would you say you bought less commercial titles because of buying magazines?
I think that is kind of true. Full price software did come away when I had about 12 months in the home computer club. Thanks, Mum. And we didn't really reply much to the magazines, and we got that magazine they sent. If you don't if you don't pick a choice, it will put the editor's choice, which is coincidentally always the most expensive game out there. So we'd have some load of overpriced Domark James Bond rubbish. At Christmas and other occasions, when my parents would give me a fiver or a tenner, I'd try and get some full price games and be usually got Masters of the Universe and Gremlin, and that was absolutely terrible. Outrun was kind of okay. I just thought it's better to stick with Mastertronic and cover take games, etc. But also, there's a bit of a C90 network at our school, especially with my friend Clive Barker, not the American Horror writer, but he had a tape-to-tape deck, and we pretty much snowballed our collection together.
And was it mainly Spectrum owners at school at this stage, or were there other formats?
There's a lot of Spectrum owners when I went to secondary school. But about 2 years in, though, there's a lot of them just saying, "Oh yeah, Spectrum's rubbish, mate. It's the Atari ST and Amiga wars going on in the playground," and it's kind of laughable, really, because I would end up at their houses here and there and just find out that the Amiga or Atari ST they owned wasn't really theirs. It was probably from a big brother or their dad, or even a cousin, and it wasn't literally there. They just told a story about playing on one. So there was a lot of one-upmanship in that school about being rich and really well off, and they was trying to look down on the skint kids. And a lot of the time, they're just like Jay from the In-Betweeners, just boasting about these things, and they didn't really own.
And so these people don't yet have Amigas and STs because they're expensive. Are you starting to look further away? You hanging on in there as the scene? Because 1990 is kind of the peak. For the 89, 90, they're the kind of getting the really big releases. They're getting fantastic re-releases on budget. Software is everywhere, but at that point, it's kind of downhill from there as people are buying the ST because it's $299 with loads of free games, and so on. So what's kind of happening, and where are you in all of this?
Well, I didn't really realise it. In 1989, I went to that Earls Court computer show, and the Spectrum was still healthy. And you saw all the Amiga and ST stuff, and it looks really great. But still, a lot of good AAA titles being out for this holy 8-bit trinity of Amstrad, Commodore 64, and Spectrum. That's pretty healthy. But the following year, things had really dried up, and as long as the magazines are still going, because Your Sinclair was like a Bible to me. That's where I get most of my sense of humour from. They championed Viz early on, so I got into Viz through them. And I thought, this is great. I don't really need a 16-bit just yet, and I'll never be able to afford one anyway because I was a school kid. I wasn't earning that kind of money. But, when Your Sinclair shut up shop, and by the time I'd left school, that's when I realised I really should start moving ahead.
And Your Sinclair, as a big fan of it, how did you take to the buyout of the magazine by Future? Are you one of these people who thinks it kind of died at that point? Because that's, ironically, slap bang in that period of peak Spectrum of the biggest magazine. Well, it is the biggest magazine by that point, to be fair, because Crash is on the wane. It changing hands just at that kind of point in the market where the Spectrum has just kind of reached its peak and is going down.
Do you know what? You saw the pagination drop, but it got even more weird because there weren't enough games for them to write about. So they're just the people writing it, Jonathan Nash, etc., Linda Barker, just talking about like indie music and things like that, and just dropping in references. And it's at the time when I was growing, like, there's more to life than just computer games. There are girls out there, and I was getting more into music. So I was never really into music in the 80s at all. So I was happy with computer gaming. I didn't read Smash Hits or anything like that. But then Your Sinclair pretty much stole all of its style and layout and its kind of sense of humour from Smash Hits in the first place. So in a way, it's a surrogate Smash Hits for me, and I found it more interesting. Just them talking about little parties and raves they'd been to, and I'm thinking, like, these people are like older brothers that I didn't have.
I think that last year of Your Sinclair is quite superb, especially with John Nash editing it and really putting in the effort. That last issue, superb, absolutely superb.
That's the best issue of it ever, really. It's the greatest hits, and there's a bunker mentality as far fewer software's being released, but I think it's just ends up being even more entertaining in a sort of way. I can't compare the two, like the classic, the peak commercial era when it's 86, 87, those are very, very good indeed. But there's something just more quirky, and it gets more alternative and a little offbeat. And I enjoy that kind of thing. But I don't think many people on the high street did, though. So that's, sales figures tumble, of course. And everyone's talking about the 16 bits.
Speaking of which, when did you make the jump?
Well, the penultimate issue of Your Sinclair was telling you all about these newfangled emulators that you could get on PCs and Amigas and Atari. And I just thought, well, by that time, the ST had objectively lost the 16-bit wars. And I'm going like, well, Amiga's the future for me. That can't go wrong. So it's 1993. And I, through an inheritance from my grandfather, I get 300 quid and a lot. I think one of the people by this time I'm out of school, I'm at college, I'm going out drinking for the first time with a bunch of mates who, two of them own Amigas, one of them's very show off. He's very arrogant about, he's got a job in the evenings and he's earning money, he's buying us all drinks, and is going like, my computer's better than yours, and what you're doing with all this stupid Spectrum stuff, and go, well, it's all I can afford. And he's just really rubbing it in my face. So when I'm still jobless at the time, but with this money, I'll go and get an Amiga 1200 to outshine his Amiga 600. I have no regrets over. Just to go, well, yeah, it's almost like the equivalent of getting a +2 when someone has got a 48K. I've kind of, sometimes, as I said, it's nice being late to the party. You can enjoy technology when it matures, but I suppose looking back, 93 was leaving it a bit too late. And somebody at college, one of the proper IT spods, was saying like, the PC's on the way, Pete. And PCs, they're way too expensive and they're too fiddly. No, they're going to take over from Amigas. And so that is absolute rubbish. A year later, I'm drinking with him in the pub and going, yeah, you are absolutely right there.
It's good coming in late because, frankly, when you went to your mate's house with the ST in like 89, you saw the same games you had on, in my case, my Amstrad, thinking, yeah, the graphics are better, but it doesn't play much better. Sometimes it plays worse. Space Harrier, I remember playing on the ST and it taking forever to load between levels. Or my mate got Supercars and I bought that on the Amstrad. It's just I'm enjoying myself as much. It's 4 colours. It doesn't scroll as smoothly, but I'm enjoying myself as much. And that's what being an 8-bit owner, was at the time. Really, you had to concentrate more on the gameplay.
Yeah, I think there's something about the holy trinity of the 8-bits, especially the ZX Spectrum. It's got the gaming scene was very British. I'm not much of a Union Jack waver, but all those quirky, mad budget games, you just don't really see the like of that these days. Maybe some on the indie Steam releases, but like, I don't know, some strange names they come up with from people in the back bedrooms in Scunthorpe or something like that, like, Mr. Jack and the BMX Grannies, say, to make up an example. Just really quirky stuff, while over in America, everyone's on about the Nintendo Famicom and the Commodore 64 and all that kind of stuff. And Japan has got their own kind of gaming style. There's something uniquely British about stuff Jeff Minter's putting out, and I like that. I like it. It's nice, eccentric, and quirky.
It's very much a scene where it's people your own age or slightly older, usually in their bedrooms, coding a lot of these budget games. Before people like Binary Design came in, doing it kind of more professionally, people in their bedrooms coming up with, I've got an idea. I'm going to have to do the graphics, the sound, and everything. And I'm going to make a game, and it might be rubbish, it might be good.
Exactly. This is what I liked about having snowballed a collection of very old Spectrum games and the cover tapes and buying budget games. Yes, a lot of them, about 80% of them were rubbish, but I enjoyed the ideas. I still like playing crap games, and I've made a few myself. I love the idea. It doesn't matter if the graphics are flickering, the sound's a bit beepy. There's something ace about that. I do fly a flag for It's Only Rock and Roll, But I Like It by K-Tel. It is basically Rockstar Ate My Hamster written in BASIC. For years, I just wrote off the homebrew scene, thinking, it's just good. All those people do is put out these public domain games that are just puzzle games that are slightly like Tetris or Columns or something like that. And that somebody on the forums was raving about this game, thinking, I was thinking, this isn't going to be much. It's going to be one of those puzzle games. I've seen enough of that from the public domain scene on the Amiga. Started playing it, like they're pushing the envelope, especially the guys in Russia, Ukraine, and Poland. They look at the footage going like, Spectrum can't actually do that. You look at things like Sword of Iana and Aliens Neoplasma. You go, I can't believe this is a real Spectrum in front of me.
And it's 40 plus years of experience of the machine that you can only get after that period of time. Plus the fact it is so in many ways manageable.
Like people still making games for the Atari 2600 when you've got about 4K or 8K. That's mental. And it's like those people who go into marathons with carrying a fridge or an army rucksack on their back. It's like, they're not going to win, but look at the effort. You respect them more than the person who's crossing the finishing line first, aren't you?
Absolutely. It's just amazing. And what you see on the scene just constantly amazes me. And it's still living and still going. Whereas you were with me at the end of Your Sinclair going, well, what now? And John Nash saying in that editorial, the Spectrum isn't dead. It's just entering a new era. And it was pretty quiet for a number of years. A few of us, again, both of us were on ComSys Sinclair, but that was a kind of, I always say, a few people huddled around a fire, the dying embers, and then suddenly, bam, here we are about 20 years ago. It started to kind of pick up again, and now here we are.
Yes, that penultimate issue of Your Sinclair dedicated to emulators showed me that you could get emulators on the Amiga, so that was another factor in me getting the Amiga. I also had a friend at this time, just in the dying days of the 8-bits, Amstrad CPC user. And that's my first taste of the Amstrad CPC, and it's so beautifully coloured. When it's high resolution, I like the Amstrad CPC. It's one of those machines. It sits in between the Commodore 64 and the Spectrum. So when it's high resolution, it looks like the Spectrum. And when it goes low resolution with a lot of colours, it kind of looks a bit Commodore 64-ish. And I've never really I can't grow to like the Commodore 64 too much because the pixels just way too big. It's just near enough teletext size. With astonishing sound, I'll give the Commodore 64 that caveat, but the Amstrad CPC is a very underrated machine. I got to write a game on it in BASIC, but it worked, and I impressed my mate's family with that.
So you've got Reheated Pixels, and do you have any plans, because you put out a video not that often, but you got any plans for stuff that's coming up on there?
Yeah, eventually. I mean, I wrote down Reheated Pixels when I started it back in 2017. I wrote down about 6 or 7 games that I was going to do in order. So I've done Outrun and Double Dragon, and Feud is in the works of stuff I filmed about 3 years ago in a graveyard. That is still around. I've got most of the game footage around, and now it's just a case of writing a script and just filming a few more links around Wellingborough. Anything that looks like Feud in Wellingborough. That
sounds exciting, because I really do love Feud, and there's so much to look into there, how the AI is broken on AI. There I go with modern talk is broken on the C64, and then consequently the Atari XL, XE and PC version. And MSX version is fantastic as well. But of course the Amstrad version is my favourite, because obviously it would be. Well, anyway, thank you, Pete, for joining me today here on the ChinnyVision podcast. And whereabouts can people find you?
I used to say Twitter, but that's a digital bin fire at the moment, so I won't be back on there until things radically change. I don't know if they ever will. So I'm on Blue Sky. That's a nice thing. Blue Sky is PeteProdge.bsky.social, I think it is. And I'm just on Facebook as Pete Prodge, where I don't really care about social media brands or anything like that anymore. I do things under Reheated Pixels, also on Blue Sky and Facebook. Eventually, I'll get back to that again. I'll do something with Reheated Pixels as the winter months draw in. I will be back, but at the moment, I'm just figuring out things for my 50th birthday party next week.
Well, congratulations for that, and thanks for joining me today. Cheers.
It's been brilliant. Thank you, Chinny.